Welcome to The Problem Was Me. I'm your host, Tom Gagliano. I'm a best-selling author, family dynamics expert, and social worker. And we'll be discussing childhood messages and their impact on addiction, the intimacy we have or don't have, our parenting skills, the careers we choose, even the roles we're set up to play in life. Do you put other people's needs ahead of your own? Do you have a hard time sharing your feelings? Do you feel invisible? Do you have a hard time saying no to others? Do you have an inner voice screaming for help, but yet you're so afraid of allowing others to hear this voice? Well, you've come to the right show. I'll be touching upon these issues and much more from my personal and professional experiences to help you end the negative self-talk and take your life to a new level. The Problem Was Me starts now. Hi, how you doing? Welcome to The Problem Was Me with me, your host, Tom Gagliano. So many of us are so afraid of intimacy that we sabotage our happiness by pushing our partner away, and we don't even know how we do that. I call that the destructive dance. So I facilitate 3 men's groups a week, as well as doing many couples consultations on how to enhance the relationship in your life. So the very first thing that we have to do is to build self-awareness. So in my experience, I put together 6 reasons that we don't talk to our partner about certain issues that come up in our life. Please relate to the ones that you've seen that you're doing in your life today. Number 1, I don't want to talk to my partner about this issue because I feel like we're going to argue. So why talk about it? Number 2, I don't want to talk to my partner about these issues because I feel like it's not going to help. So why talk about it? Number 3, I don't want to talk to my partner about this because I don't want to hurt their feelings. So why talk about it? Number 4, I don't want to talk to my partner about this because they're really not going to understand me. So why talk about it? Number 5, I don't want to talk to my partner about this because I think it's silly. I think my feelings are silly. So why talk about it? And number 6, I don't want to talk to my partner about this because I don't want to disappoint them. So why talk about it? Okay, let me tell you what I do know from my experience. If I'm not talking about these issues and my partner isn't talking about these issues as well, I'm going to act this in with anxiety, isolation, shutting down, or I'm going to act it out with anger, where my partner says, why did he get so upset at this later on that day or the next day? It doesn't make sense. Or I can act it out in more destructive ways, with affairs, with flirting, with other ways. If the conversation you're having is not working, let's work on changing that conversation. Because the one thing I know, if you do what you always did, you're going to get what you always got. And you're going to walk down that destructive dance time and time again. So let's talk about how do we do this? Well, there's 2 kinds of willingness that'll get you to help enhance the relationship with your partner. Number 1 is the willingness to listen to new information. You're doing that right now. You're here listening to this. Number 2 is tougher. The willingness to take direction, having uncomfortable conversations I may not want to have, having conversations I don't feel like having conversations I don't believe is working. And I can tell you that the degree of success rests on my client's willingness to take direction. And I've helped a lot of clients who will tell me, we never thought our relationship could be this good. So it's important to understand that both partners have to have those uncomfortable conversations like adults, not scared little kids, with empathy, with validation, with boundaries, if they do want to move closer. So let's talk about something that's very important. People do not improve their relationship because they need to. They'll only improve their relationship because they want to. And if you're in a relationship where your partner doesn't want to work on this, then work on the most important relationship you have. And that's the one you have with yourself. You're the key ingredient. Keep working on yourself. See a professional. Go wherever you need to go to better yourself. Because you're the common denominator in all those relationships. If your partner doesn't want to work on the relationship, doesn't mean you can't work on yourself. So let's go to number 2, creating an environment with healthy communications. We got to create safety for each other. We have to know what words and actions trigger them and what words and actions trigger us. Rules of engagement. To learn to say, when you said that, it was hurtful. I'm not saying you meant to hurt me, but it was hurtful. When you did that, it pushed me away. I'm not saying you meant to push me away, but that's what happened. And you also hear your partner's concerns as well. Because if you don't, you'll become victims to each other. And when there's two victims, nobody's listening to what the other person's saying or the other person's concerns. We're walking down that destructive dance time and time again. So even if we disagree, we can validate that person and say, I hear you. If the person feels you hear them, now you're walking in the right direction. And remember to protect your partner from other people. Do not bring in, well, Susie and Johnny agree with me, or your mom and dad agree with me, unless you want to do the destructive dance. That's never going to work. And don't say, I told you so, unless you want to do the destructive dance. That's never, ever going to create closeness with your partner. Learning when to give your partner a hug or just hold their hand in a conversation is so important. When you see your partner struggle, stop, pause, and say, what would I want to hear if I was struggling like that? That's probably what they want to hear. Let compassion and kindness guide what you say if you do need to say something, or what you do if you do need to say something, do something. Sometimes they just want to be held or validated for their feelings, not being told what they need to do to get better. So let's go on to number 3. Relationships are not always 50-50. They're not. Our partner has their strengths and weaknesses. We have our strengths and weaknesses. In some situations, you have to give more, take less. Some situations, we have to give more and take less. That's the way life is. If you walk into every situation with a 50-50 mindset, you're going to have unrealistic expectations. And you know what they're going to create? Predetermined resentments. It's not always 50-50. Sometimes they can be more. Sometimes we can be more. I liken this to a baseball game. Let's say I'm playing for a team and the pitcher gives up 7 runs in the first inning. Bad day. Partners could have bad days. Now, I could quit. I could say, this is ridiculous, 7 runs in the first inning. I'm out of here. Or I could say, listen, we got to score a lot more runs than we thought we did. They could have bad days. We could have bad days. Are we picking them up on their bad days? Are they picking us up on our bad days? So it's very important to understand that we all have bad days. And sometimes we have to be more in the relationship, and sometimes they do. Do not go into the mindset that everything is 50-50, because it's not. And you're going to, again, set yourself up for unrealistic expectations, which is going to cause predetermined resentments. Promise you that. Let's go on to number 4. Be aware of the version of intimacy you saw in your childhood. We all come from a version of intimacy we saw from our caregivers. What did they do when there was a problem? How did they help each other get through their struggles? What did they do when there were disagreements? Did one shut down, run away, get angry? Believe me, we put that all in our brain, in our emotions. And when we feel the same feelings that our caregivers felt, we're going to be tempted to do the same things, because that's the only version we have. Or we'll do something completely opposite. I've seen that too. We do either the same exact thing, or we do something completely opposite. So be aware of the version of intimacy you saw in your own childhood. Learn each other's childhood messages, because I'm telling you now, you're not just in a relationship with your partner. You're in a relationship with your partner's childhood messages as well. And they're in a relationship with your childhood messages as well. Remember that. You know, sometimes I have couples and I make them role reverse in their last disagreement, where one partner will take the role of the other partner and they'll have a conversation. Do you know how many times when we start that conversation, right away, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. And I go to the other partner and they start, blah, 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 blah. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You know what that teaches me? It teaches me that what I say may not be what my partner hears, and what they say may not be what I hear. We're all filtered through these childhood messages, all of us. The more we understand where our partner came from, the more empathy we're going to have, the more acceptance we're going to have, and the more understanding we're going to have on what we need to do to help them. We all came from different childhoods. So we don't always have to fully understand our partner. If that's your goal, good luck, because it hasn't happened with me. And our partner is never going to fully understand us. That doesn't mean we can't have a healthy, good relationship. There's nothing to do with it. It's really more putting our feet in their shoes. The difference between empathy and feeling bad for our partner, sympathy, is simply this. Sympathy is when I feel bad for my partner. Empathy is when I really understand what it's like to be my partner. That's deeper, because then I'm really relating. So sympathy and empathy is different. So remember, they didn't come from the same childhoods as you, and you didn't come from the same childhoods that they did. Understanding that is going to help you grow in closeness, because you're going to understand more what you need to give them to fill that hole that they might have inside. It's very important. So I don't want to start this next piece, number 5, because I don't want to go over the break. So please, let's take a minute, come back. Let's go to 5, time traveling. We all do it. Please come back and join me in the time traveling process. Thank you. Hi, welcome back. Thanks for staying here and the willingness to listen to some of the suggestions I make. And they're suggestions. Take what you can that you could use and leave the rest. You don't have to agree with everything you're hearing on this podcast. But if you can grab some nuggets, why not use them? They're for free, right? So number 5, beware the time traveling process. This is where we confuse, like 4, the voices of our past with the voices in our adult life. And it's easy to do. Look, I came from a tough childhood. I was always being put down, being told I was never enough. Nobody ever said they were sorry to me ever. And that's why I have a problem saying I'm sorry. I felt like when I made a mistake, I became a mistake. If I failed, I felt like a failure. Imagine that growing into an adult life when anybody gave me good constructive criticism. I never heard it like that. I heard I was defective, like something was wrong with me. So be aware of your messages again in the time traveling process, because what you heard in childhood will affect what you hear in your adult life, similar to number 4. Now, I had a client once that the husband was always saying, every time I say anything to my wife, she says, whatever, she shuts down. So I had them talk about the last argument they had. This is what I noticed. He said something and he made a face, a nonverbal message. And she, whatever, I said, wait a minute, what just happened? Look at his face and tell me what just happened. You know what she said? That was the face my mother made me feel like I was a disappointment, like I wasn't good enough. And I couldn't hear anything after that. You know what a breakthrough that is for them? Because now he knows, and he didn't know, and she knows to call him on it. And things got a lot better after that. So nonverbal messages are just, or more powerful than verbal messages. So be aware of the time traveling process in words and actions and even nonverbal messages. Number 6, do you want to be right or do you want to be close? That's your call. If all you do in your conversations is want to be right, you're going to do the destructive dance time and time again. Nothing will ever get better. Pay attention to that. There are times that you need to share your feelings and you want to be heard more than others. But if you're always trying to be right, if you're doing what I used to do and always protecting myself from feeling defective, okay, destructive dance is right around the block. And unrealistic expectations, again, will bring you predetermined resentments every time. Number 7, help your partner without expecting a cookie in return. Do things without expecting something back. And you want to know what's even better? Do things that they won't know you're doing to help them. Maybe clean the kids' toys or vacuum, whatever you can do. Get in the habit of doing selfless things without the cookie back. I'm telling you that will bring your partner closer and closer to you. And a little secret, you'll get more of what you want from your partner because they're going to feel more like they're a priority. Number 8, be aware of your inner critic. My book, The Problem Was Me, about this darn fictitious character that sat on my shoulder, always telling me what I did wrong, never allowing me to celebrate my victories, always telling me not to trust. Man, this fictitious character sabotaged every relationship I had. So work on yourself. Get help yourself if you need to. Silence that inner critic. And when you do, you will take your life to a new level. I promise you that. I've helped so many people individually silence their inner critic and start to believe that they deserve to be happy. They deserved the joys of life. They found serenity. They didn't let that inner voice destroy their lives and keep telling them all the things that they did wrong. And a part of this is being able to say you're sorry. I could never do that until I realized saying I'm sorry does not mean I'm a defective, useless human being. It means I'm sorry. And I could say to my partner, I'm sorry that you're hurting. Doesn't mean I'm sorry I did something wrong, but I could still say I'm sorry you're hurting, even if I did nothing wrong. Again, it's giving them empathy. So I'm going to touch on a few quick things that'll help you. First of all, always start the conversation on the right note. I want to talk to you because I want to make our relationship better, because I'm trying here to get closer to you. I want to talk to you. I know you love our children. I love our children. Let's try and work out something where we could both help our children. Start right. Once you put on the boxing gloves, the destructive dance, it's going to happen for sure. It's right around the block. So start the conversation right and make your partner a priority. Make date night. I love date night. But if you make date night a priority, you're telling your partner they are a priority. Now, we can't always make a partner a priority. Sometimes there's other things that happen we can't help. But keep in mind that you reschedule and you stick to the commitment. Again, if they feel date night's a priority, they'll feel like they're a priority. Be curious with your partner. Ask them what's going on with. It's so easy to disconnect. Listen, all of us, we have financial problems, kid problems, work problems, blah, 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 blah. It's so easy to disconnect. What's harder is to make sure we keep connecting. I know that. I've been through it. Be curious with your partner. Keep trying to connect with them. When your partner does something that you like, something that makes you feel good, tell them. Don't say, oh, they know that. They know that made me happy. No, 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 no. Say it. Say, thank you. That made me feel good. Thank you. That made me feel important. Thank you for doing that. Tell them. It's so much more powerful when you tell them than rather when you assume that they know. So you need to tell them. If you're afraid in a conversation, in an issue, like we talked about earlier, say, I'm afraid to bring this up with you. It's okay. I want to tell you something that our society's got all backwards. It takes more courage to share your fears and feelings with your partner than it does to run away like a scared little kid. The courage is being able to share your feelings. In my men's group, when one of my clients shares their feelings with their wife or children and puts it out there, the other members in the group want to stand up and cheer. They know what courage that takes. You know what the funny thing is? The person that shares their feelings, they feel like they did something wrong, something uncomfortable, like a wimp. We got this all wrong. Well, you know what I hear from all my couples? The wives usually will always say, I want him to share his feelings. I want him to share his feelings. I want him to tell me how he feels. Now, they may not always like what they say. I got to work through that with them. Sometimes you get what you want, but there is that feeling that they want to hear the feelings of their partner and the other way around. But they need that rules of engagement. They got to learn how to do it like an adult, not a scared little kid. Being empathetic, being validating, put boundaries down. And look, if you're sharing your feelings with your partner and what you get back is anger or they're shutting down, take your boundaries out of your pocket. Short and specific. I'm not going to do this with you if you're going to shut down or get angry at me. Protect yourself. Boundaries. Don't keep going at it if you find your partner is not willing to work on it. You work on yourself if that happens. Hold on to those boundaries. Don't let go of them because you might need them. And you're teaching them, not just yourself, you're teaching them that inappropriate behavior they're not going to get away with. You're teaching them that. So boundaries are very important. And I'll be doing a podcast on boundaries at some later date on how to instill healthy boundaries. Boundaries tell you what you like about yourself, what you don't like about yourself. Makes you feel good about yourself. I took care of myself. So don't forget about boundaries. Hold on to those boundaries. They're very important. And always remember, ask your partner what they need. Don't assume you know. I know I made this mistake many times. Sometimes your partner just needs a hug. Sometimes your partner needs feedback. Sometimes your partner just needs to be listened to. Ask them that. Ask them, what do you need from me? It's okay. It's okay. Let them guide you sometimes and let you guide them. When you really have a good relationship and those safety plans are intact, as I said in number 2, creating a safety plan, when you have everything intact, you wouldn't believe how easy it is to share your feelings then because you feel safe. Very important. So don't assume, ask what they need. So the first Tuesday of every month, I'll be back at 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern on the Transformation Talk Radio. And next time, we're going to talk about a very, very sensitive piece, infidelity, digital infidelity, physical infidelity. I'm going to teach couples how to heal through infidelity. I've helped many, many people do this. I have a YouTube, Overcoming Infidelity, where you'll hear a little bit about what I'm going to say that Tuesday. And I want to tell you the craziest thing in the world. I've had so many couples tell me that they never thought they were going to have such a close relationship because they worked on themselves in areas they never would have worked on. Never. Never. And if it wasn't for the infidelity, I know this sounds crazy. If it wasn't for the infidelity, they wouldn't have worked on those areas. So I hope you join me on that Tuesday on the ways we can heal and overcome infidelity. I've done this many times with many couples. Thank you for joining me. And remember what I always say, take what you can that you can use, leave the rest right here. You do not have to agree with everything you hear on this podcast, but grab what you can. And I pray that you can enhance your relationship as well. Thank you for joining me. You've been listening to The Problem Was Me with me, the host, Tom Gagliano. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the Transformation Talk Radio as I help you break the cycle of negative and addictive thinking affecting the emotional intimacy you have, your parenting skills, the careers you choose, even the roles you were set up to play. As a high-profile leader in addiction and self-help, I've helped develop unique methods and procedures which have helped numerous institutions and individuals. For more information on how I can assist you creating a healthier life, visit theproblemwasme.com.